Uncharted Lost Legacy left me cold, glacial levels of disappointment I never thought I'd experience when playing this franchise, and I didn't want to start this video with a statement as poignant as that. I wanted to open this video up enthralled when discussing Uncharted's most recent video game outing, a franchise which stands as probably my favorite of all time, and yet here I am. I'd be lying if I said I ever held even a semblance of hope for this game, but I'd also be lying if I said I expected it to be this bad. Outside of contrivances, which this game suffers greatly from, Lost Legacy is poorly paced, rushed, inexcusably unfunny, and a highly awkward attempt to emulate a flaccid modern MCU formula on this universe, its stories, and characters. Not only abysmally disparaging what made the prior Uncharted games and their characters so unique and stand out in the zeitgeist of treasure hunting stories to begin with, but also indirectly rendering the sparks of the prior entries as practically all but redundant. A franchise which stood proud for its distinct uniqueness within the treasure hunting and gaming genre as a whole, being squeezed almost completely dry of any juice and taste in this title. Since Uncharted is probably my favorite series of all time, in this video I'm going to go excessively in depth and pick apart this game and this series from all conceivable angles. Down to even the last bone of Golden Abyss, baby, this video is going to have it all. Before I begin, however, I, quickly need to address one little gripe which runs the risk of denigrating this critique. This game was initially intended on being a DLC, and so, therefore, I guess it somehow dilutes this entire video. Well, guess what, my friend? It ain't a DLC, so goodbye. On another note, pretty much all the footage of the game was recorded using the Legacy of Thieves HD port, complete at a silky smooth 60 frames per second featuring zero motion blur. I wanted to record the game in the standard edition, but if you thought I'd buy this game again, then I wish you also wrote the comedy for this title. So, without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, you boot up the game and immediately see this. If you recall from my Uncharted 4 video, one issue I had with the game was the overall lifeless title screen. Rather than opening on a nice, atmospheric, engaging shot with Nate's theme blaring in the background, we got this on his final game. Lost Legacy, fortunately, does away with that affair with way more appealing settings to look at and actual music in the background. Obviously not as good as Nate's themes, but well, this is better than Uncharted 4's, something which will not be consistent at all. So you start the game off to an overall cute and charming opening, where Chloe is interacting with this sort of con artist kid who tried to pilfer one of her belongings. It's not too bad. One thing all the Uncharted games managed to do quite well was establishing the setting's cultures and peoples, and Lost Legacy is also pretty aight with this. It was actually nice getting to explore this packed Indian bazaar with the soldiers sort of just standing there. Then we hop into this truck and the real game sort of begins. We're then thrust into this big hellscape, a war-torn city at the mercy of a notorious group of insurgents. When playing through the first few chapters, you would not think this game is bad, and hell, neither did I when first playing it. These are easily the highlight chapters of the game in my opinion. Slowly strolling through the war-torn Indian city, with families desperately hiding and civilians being executed, the mystery of what Chloe's doing here and why she's putting up with all this stuff is truly interesting enough to warrant playing through. The screen constantly shaking from bombing attacks, navigating through these tight and precarious structures out of everyone's sight like some sort of little rat. It presents a very airless domain, and sets the game up as more of this underground narrative. The airstrike is probably my favorite shot in the whole game, really puts into scale just how bad these armies actually are, and the damage they can cause. It gives off a really palpable and great little guy feeling, as though Chloe in this game will rise through the odds by relying more on stealth tactics and strategy to overcome these opponents. This is actually quite consistent with the way she will just watch people being harassed and or killed rather than intervening at all, not engaging with the soldiers outside of stealth or checkpoints, etc. All so far culminating in the title, which maybe I overhate.
You're late, Fraser. I see you too.
No, never mind. Believe me, this will not be consistent at all throughout the video, but even as awful as Nadine is in this game, I overall don't mind her in these chapters for the most part. In fact, if anything, this moment right here actually felt like a weird nod to people like me who hate Nadine.
There you go. Oh,
Yes, in fact, I actually am.
Nadine Ross. Careful, brothers. This tiger's got claws. I hear that Shoreline's under new management.
temporary setback. Nothing I can't handle.
Of course. Pidgey, though. My men and I could use someone of your caliber.
She lost her entire army in the Pride game. Whoa, I'm trying to be nice, because so far the game's actually been good. Hopefully this is just a one and done, and the game doesn't think it's cool by constantly wanking Nadine off. Then the chapter ends with a mad dash through the city as the characters difficultly navigate hazardous terrain while enduring a violent rainstorm. Why does that sound familiar? Did you forget that she blissfully left you for dead less than 5 minutes ago? Okay, outside of little contrivances such as that, I truly quite like these chapters. Nadine isn't a piss annoying shite, Chloe feels somewhat nice, the atmosphere is great, and so yeah, good work. If I were to cut Lost Legacy right here, then we'd be left with a good game. Short, but by golly gosh, way better than the rest of the title. This game easily peaks at the beginning for reasons I've already gone into, and so it's only downhill from here. So in this title, Chloe sets off on a grand adventure in India to discover the Tusk of Ganesh, a fabled artifact supposedly dating back from the era of the Hoysala Empire. With the assistance of Nadine, the two embark on and overcome trial after trial, all while chasing an army to the finish line. Pretty typical Uncharted stuff. I mean, India is a great country to set a game in with its more than rich history to delve into and contextualize a game over. The issue with this, however, is that the environments you explore in this game feel the most basic since Uncharted 1. India is an overall pretty diverse nation to draw inspiration from settings-wise, and yet the grand majority of the game is set in a jungle, because I guess we've never seen that before in the Uncharted series. Outside the opening, which explores the more compact and sort of vibrant muddled cities, which is featured across a lot of the country, no environments in this game really stand out. Now, look, okay, I know Uncharted 4's final few chapters were also in a jungle, but somehow the island setting felt way more complex and lore-rich than this game's setting. The sort of pirate utopia built on the island, all the key checkpoints and small areas you could explore outside of this, the overarching mysterious narrative of what the hell these pirates were doing here and what went wrong, with this supposed impeccable utopia, felt way more interesting than Lost Legacy's area, which overall plays it straight from what we've come to expect from history. But anyways, let's just move on to the next scene.
Yeah, well, you thank my dad for that. Hindu myths were his thing. I'd rubbed off. You must be proud.
Yeah, I guess I should talk about where this new stuff came from. If you couldn't tell, Chloe has been strangely altered from her initial depictions in a way that doesn't really make any sense. Okay, so Chloe in the older games was personified as this overall tough lassie, often a bit reckless and possessive of a questionably varied loyalty, but ultimately someone who can shoot, talk, or drive her way out of some pinches. But her skills were also limited, so was her confidence, and she essentially served as a more complicated reflection of Drake. Someone who also lives for the thrill, but this time lacks the need to commit to responsibility, do-goodery, sexual activity. She was more of a carefree, unaccountable Elena, if anything, sort of like Nate's Black Cat. Yet in this game, outside of the opening chapter, she doesn't retain those mannerisms at all. She's way more soft-spoken here than usual, no longer the bumbly and warm character she once was. A lot of the time doesn't really feel like her actress, Clara Black, is really trying at all either.
This is my land! What could you possibly stand to gain?
Oh, it's all about what you have to lose. Oh, it's all about what you have to lose.
You feel me? And that's not even mentioning Chloe's weird new history. This whole Indian heritage thing feels so forced. At no point in any of the prior adventures was it even slightly hinted Chloe was Indian. I mean, her goddamn accent made it obvious enough she wasn't.
Evening, lads.
All right, darling.
Looks like hell spit you two back out.
It was a thing of beauty, Chloe. I went off without a hitch.
You're unusually quiet. What's up your bum?
I always felt Uncharted 3 solidified this more, by having Chloe, an Aussie, work with Charlie, a Tommy, work with Nate and Sully, Yankees. You know, that kinda cool English dynamic mixing well with the game tackling English history. But no, turns out the whole time, despite not being mentioned or even remotely alluded to, Chloe is actually Indian. The game even reflects this with her new model, complete with a new bent long nose and everything. I mean, her new model isn't all bad, I mean, I like that. But did we really need this soft retcon? Turns out this whole time she was the daughter of a treasure hunter who was too busy to spend time with her, and just one day sent them off to Australia or some shit like what? Cause you know, she's got to be highly relatable, lads, complete with a new quote-unquote tragic backstory and what I can only really describe as daddy issues, justifying her being such a dodgy bloke. It honestly feels like such an excuse to just tick off the tearjerker card, and you'd be surprised just how quickly this is resolved anyway. It's resolved like at some point in the middle of the game, by the way. Chloe's daddy issues aren't tapped into near as much as it should have been, and it's overall just a nothing burger. Not brought up like at all throughout the second half of the game, and very sparsely acknowledged during the first half. Great.
I have heard about this place for so long. I can't believe I'm actually looking at it.
Should take a picture. Send it to your dad.
No, it's just a few decades too late for that.
Look,
Oh, God, please, no. It's fine.
Why does this feel so unnatural? Why is Chloe just blindly trusting Nadine with a lot of this information? A lot of the beginning of the game is like this.
It's 3. You know,
You're pretty good at this whole treasure hunting thing.
I'm a quick study. All right, what the hell is that thing you keep playing with?
It's my stress toy. It showed up in the mail a few weeks after we got to Australia. My dad was here. Why didn't that stupid bastard tell me?
You said it yourself. He wanted to keep you safe.
I can't let Asav get that task.
No. No, we can't.
Thank you.
Nadine and Chloe don't talk or act in a way where they're an incredibly mismatched pair that's just met or anything. They don't have the rapid-fire chemistry of, say, Carter and Lee, the differing personalities of Ratchet and Clank, nothing like that. They're talking like two friends that have hardly interacted before and are now being forced to hang out.
My father, your dad.
My dad.
Your dad.
My dad. My mum. My stress toy. My dad.
My dad.
Not every cutscene needs to be this overly sentimental exposition drop of a character's deep history or something. Some of the best cutscenes in the prior games were just the characters, having fun, getting under each other's skins, bouncing off about ridiculous habits of one another, maybe even scatter some crude humor about.
Oh. Is that an ancient Tibetan ritual dagger in your pocket?
Oh, maybe I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, hello. You see these symbols here?
Yeah? Looks like
It's
Sabaean
Sabaean
script.
script. Right. Look, the Crusaders were...
Hello? Buka Pintu! Siapa ini? Bicara sekarang.
Ah, crap.
Sialan lo! Cepatan, buka pintu! Ah, tai!
It worked!
There he is! Up there! Get on the gun!
Oh, boy.
It was charming not only because it was funny, but the characters' personalities enabled for this kind of comedy. An issue with modern media, especially Marvel, is that the characters are written around the jokes that are being told and not the other way around. The jokes and dialogue should be dictated by what the characters would plausibly say. Stories like Guardians of the Galaxy got this right, all the prior Uncharted games too, and then some, which is something this game sorely lacked. I don't buy that Chloe and Nadine would interact in such an overly earnest way as this. Their actual nuances are never actually brought up or explicitly addressed, despite this, being a buddy cop adventure. Buddy cop stories work best when the characters have differing ideologies and methods for achieving tasks, which often end up getting into conflict. Lee is a master martial artist, but naive. Carter is nowhere near as good at fighting as Lee, but makes up for this by being able to charm the pants off his enemies and his much greater street wisdom. Together, they work hand in hand. The game sort of tries to do this. Nadine mentions how she doesn't like acting recklessly or something over Chloe's more carefree nature, but we never really see this. It's just brought up at times, and hell, sometimes we see the opposite. Sometimes Nadine actually does just barge in on a whim without any care or thought. Meanwhile, sometimes you're inspired to play more strategically as Chloe. Like, great, you couldn't even get a buddy cop dynamic right in a buddy cop story. Why couldn't we get any, funny cultural jokes between the two? Like, I don't know, maybe Chloe tries speaking some Afrikaans or something, or Nadine cusses at Chloe in Hindi or Punjabi or whatever Indian language you want. Maybe have them discuss how hilariously irritating Indian accents can be. Anything to help build any engrossment with Chloe and Nadine. Okay, I've stalled long enough. Let's address the pompous, oversized, overbearing, deficit-tripling, worthless, pathetic, fatuous, brain-dead elephant in the room. Nadine. In spite of what that introductory statement insinuates, I kept how should I put this, relatively open mind regarding Nadine in this game. I'd heard from a lot of people that Nadine apparently wasn't that bad in this game and that she was a great improvement from Uncharted 4, as low a bar as I was at the top. Apparently it was due to this new character arc of sorts. So after playing this game, what can I say? She's equally as bad if not worse. So, you see, she went from this infallible and untouchable force to be reckoned with in Uncharted 4 to this game where she's now an infallible and untouchable force to be reckoned with most of the time. Except arguably worse this time around. She was awful in Uncharted 4, but at least her screen time was minimal. This time around, she's tagging along for the entire adventure, yucking things up with cringe as hell dialogue, her punchy goddamn face, and her annoying as shite constipated voice.
Good to have you back. Good to have you back.
10 out of 10 writing, lads. Mwah! Remember my complaint of Uncharted 4 where they shoved it way too much into your face that Elena was very capable? Well, this is like that, but on steroids. There are so many moments when Nadine is fighting someone and the game will pan the camera to focus exclusively on and nothing else but her, and 80% of her goddamn dialogue is just the characters fingering her for being a tough cookie. It's like the game said, hey, did you somehow forget the questionable fact that Nadine is an unstoppable force and an immovable object? Well, we're gonna remind you every 5 seconds!
Look, for what it's worth, Your kick-ass reputation has got you this job.
Careful, brothers. This tiger's got claws.
Lucky you're on my team. Yeah, you are.
Ha 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 ha! Uncharted, folks! I want to take the liberty to remind you all that there was a time of Uncharted where the characters were written like actual people and had more to do than just jerk each other off. Making your character an ill-tempered, untouchable, and invincible badass who rips and tears their way through everything with minimal effort does not make them good, especially in regards to a series as well thought out and fairly humanized as Uncharted. It makes them a shallow and irritating tribe who's bending over to characters like Captain Marvel and makes you miss good writing. The only times I liked Nadine in this game was when she either wasn't in it or was getting her ass kicked, of which the game did not have nearly enough of these moments. You know, in the older games you couldn't shoot your partners? Never before have I wanted to do that more. Speaking of shooting, I forgot this is a video game, so maybe we should talk a bit about gameplay. When making a game starring Chloe, I feel like there was a real missed opportunity to spice up the gameplay a bit, put us in the shoes of a physically inferior person compared to Nate. It allowed for more airtight scenarios and enhanced the tension of the encounters with enemies, as it forced to play more strategically and utilize the environment to its fullest. Like, I don't know, maybe a more stealth-oriented Uncharted game where you cautiously pick off your targets with more appropriate tools and maneuver techniques, akin to the Splinter Cell and Metal Gear titles, perhaps? But no, instead Nate's gameplay is practically copied and pasted right from Uncharted 4, with only like a couple of new mechanics scattered here and there which do quite a bum job of mixing the gameplay up in any captivating way. You can lockpick chests and get cool gear, but none of them are unique enough to actually stand out and incentivize opening more, and they run out of ammo way too quickly. I won't claim there are no strategic opportunities. With the inclusion of C4s, it opens the door to an overall decent amount of opportunities for stealth. But it still wasn't enough to justify playing as a completely different character, especially since 90% of the time you're very likely just going to be running and gunning like Nate anyway. A more underdog-esque sort of story would have lent well with these newly introduced mechanics. This feels so weird, as the game had already established narrative-wise that Chloe isn't as capable as Nate. The opening best displays a significant gap in power. Chloe is forced to uncomfortably conform to the soldiers' checkpoints, and there are some scripted moments where you have to play stealthily or else be poised to suffer a game over of sorts, all being situations a snarky and trigger-happy Nate would absolutely not comply with. And there are tons of other moments which corroborate that she's weaker than Drake, like as she can't escape Asav's chokeholds unlike Nate, and gets knocked out or more notably injured from crab Nate had little to know she's dealing with. Yet, she's equally as capable as Drake in gameplay. Now look, I know Uncharted got a lot of hate for its stealth as it definitely wasn't its strong suit, but I prefer playing a game with settings more contextualized for stealth than a game featuring a Nate clone that just rehashes the usual big shootout and dangerous collateral damage confrontations of the older games. This is a pit a lot of other games and media have fallen into, where they don't put the legwork into actually making the new playable characters feel distinct and unique to play. They usually just stop at, oh, they look and sound slightly different and just call it a day. The worst thing you can do when making a game or story with a new playable character is have them play identically to the old one, and Lost Legacy is absolutely no exception. This generates a ludonarrative dissonance even worse than what prior Naughty Dog games managed. I mean, I can't be the only one laughing at the comical side of Chloe's little french fry arms bodying these goons like 20 times her size, right? There's this really big standout chapter in the game, which has been praised to death by now for allowing a lot of exploration and treasure hunting feels-a-thon sort of non-linear coherence, like finding a bunch of hidden items to open a big door thing, climb some towers, and solve some puzzles, but I didn't do it. Why? Because the dialogue.
What's to say it's not different this time? What if it's fire or something?
You're messing with me.
I'm totally messing with you.
Is some of the most cringe-inducing, irksome, and annoying crap I've ever heard in this series.
Oh, don't cross Ross. I should put that one on my business card.
It's like they hired a Redditor to write the dialogue.
This one arms dealer demanded to speak to the man in charge, then tried backing out when I informed him I was running the show.
What did you do?
Broke both his legs.
You're not kidding.
Hey Chloe, you remember Lazarevich? Someone who also mass executed his enemies and tortured them, yet you appalled his guts for this? If it's okay for Nadine to be ruthless, then why wasn't it alright for Lazarevich? It's far from just this chapter. Almost every single other one shrouds the noise with nothing but an incredible abundance of cringe bullshit the writers pulled out of their asses.
I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of regrets swimming around in my head right now.
Tell me about it. I was really looking forward to kicking your ass again.
You bet your ass I turned that audio all the way down and completed every mandatory activity ASAP.
Mitigates a lot of risks.
Lucky you're on my team.
Yeah, you are.
You do know she lost her entire army in the prior game, right? I'd certainly be questioning her legitimacy as a war commander over that.
They've left their climbing gear.
They should come in handy.
This is more nitpicky, but like, why are there just two pittons here of all places? You know, in Uncharted 4, Nate found his one next to an already decomposed body, so you could, at least infer someone was climbing here. Then you see these perfectly discarded ones here with no one around to explain why they're there.
They've left their climbing gear.
Who's they? Also, how convenient Chloe found two, one for her and Nadine, meanwhile, you know, Nate only found one.
Shit. He's brought a whole battalion with him. Might even be more inside already. Hey, I'm flattered that he's taking us so seriously. We need to get through that gate. Alright, we'll slow down. We gotta take care of these jokers first.
Why is Chloe so nonchalant about facing an army? She got tossed around like a ragdoll by Flynn, had a pessimistic breakdown about Lazarevich, and literally quit the third game's adventure due to Talbot and Milo's army. Where'd this new confidence spawn from in between games? Remember the old days of Uncharted, lads, where characters bounced off each other naturally and had feasible chemistry? Cause I sure as hell do. Not only was written leagues better, but I feel like it was a bit easier to write charming dialogue when you had actual interesting characters not trying to mimic banal Marvel storytelling techniques, but whatever. Oh, and there's this big chase where you fight against an armored military vehicle trying so cataclysmically hard to kill you two. Why does that sound familiar? One genuine highlight about this chapter and game, to be honest, is that the puzzles are actually pretty decent, all things considered. These may actually rank as my favorite puzzles in the series. They're fun, quick, not repetitive, not too mind-numbingly easy, and are overall designed well. There's this really cool sort of puzzle bingo thing, the statues which escalate in complexity, and these Wheel of Fortune sort of connect the limbs of a spinning disc ones. They also provide this kinda cool sort of depth to the lore with each puzzle as you learn more about the Hoysala Empire and such, and it's overall nice. Not really much else to say other than that. And almost as if I was graced by the Lord and Savior himself, the Assad fights are next. I'm sure y'all can ascertain my exact thoughts on this fight. Okay, jokes aside, I will admit this fight is very good and does a great job at establishing Assad as a villain. I haven't spoken about him yet, but to sum him up, he's probably the only actual good character in this game. He has a threatening presence, he's simple yet effective, and most importantly, he's the only one who's written with any sort of finesse. I'm honestly surprised out of all the characters that didn't make this bumbling joke-tard of a figure who cracks jokes every 5 seconds, it ended up being the villain. I could overall just enjoy this. Also, this fight does me a lot of justice by practically proving my arguments legit in the Why Donating Fights Suck video. All those arguments I got of the fight serving as a method to communicate to the audience how threatening Nadine is, and the people that didn't believe Nate was downgraded, please do explain this fight to me. Not only are you capable of actually dodging his attacks, yeah, ooh, I know, dodging, very scary stuff for you Nadine tards out there to comprehend, it inspired more skilled play and experimentation with the mechanics at your disposal. The fight is ultimately still scripted, but it felt way goddamn better than, that other one. Unfortunately though, the quality is short-lived. Shortly later on in this chapter, we then get this incredibly forced and overdone sort of main character separation scene with Nadine and Chloe, where Nadine learns that this entire time Chloe's secretly been working alongside Sam as well and has an outbreak over this, punches Chloe and leaves her. Ah, so emotional. This separation holds no weight at all. It worked well if the characters were actually written appealingly and if either side made sense at all. Nadine is overall justified, I guess, but Chloe isn't, like, at all. Why didn't Chloe just tell Nadine straight up, or, you know, just hire someone else knowing the adverse reaction it calls from her?
And to think I trusted you.
I trusted you. God, try any harder to be more cliched. I dare you.
Don't hold back or anything.
Oh, I did.
Get it? Because don't forget, Nadine is very strong. Although it falls completely flat emotionally given how atrociously written these characters are, and it holds even less weight knowing it's resolved like 5 minutes later, it does lead to, admittedly, one of the best moments in the whole game for me. Just Chloe alone, no obnoxious dialogue from any poorly written supporting cast, and a more catastrophic environment to boot. You're incentivized to play more stealthily here, using the environment to its fullest as this bloodless APC hunts you down. A rainstorm engulfing the area and great dismal lighting surrounding you. Sick, nasty stuff, man. This was the first time since the very opening chapter I felt relieved and actually enjoyed playing the game in a way that gave solace. Chloe temporarily relying on her wits to power through a rather dire situation where she's forced to depend on a greater degree of stealth and strategy to pick apart her opponents felt great to play. Which is why I'm even more confused to why this wasn't expanded on, as the moments the game does this and convey a sense of helplessness stand out as my favourite segments, as they actually, you know, make Chloe feel like a different character to Nate. Unfortunately, it features this atrocity, and once this segment is over, it immediately regresses right back to Marvel bullshit. Nice.
My priorities are Tusk, not Sam Drake, and certainly not you.
I'm not doing it for you, God! Please continue ticking the boxes of cliched nonsense.
Think you can manage?
Yeah, I've had worse nights, believe me.
I won't ask.
This dialogue is the worst. It's so bad. Who'd find this anachronistic nonsense funny or even slightly appealing? Like, ugh. These aren't written like actual people. They're written like a bunch of one-dimensional Marvel blank slates trying so desperately to emulate generic storytelling. This cacophony of noise, it's just obnoxious. Every bit of dialogue has this artificial feel to it as though it's trying so hard to follow a script. It's either saddled in melodrama or just feels so transparent. Like this moment where Nadine's like, "Good to have you back," or the highly forced second act Fallout scene, which has been done in what feels like every single body cop adventure I've ever seen, except done way worse this time. What made the prior games' dialogue feel so natural and fun were for two very simple reasons. They were trying to have fun and write the characters as actual people, untouched by any further non-diegetic elements. They were never attempting to appeal to any sort of plot structure or modern tropes at the time, but instead based their characters around the natural chemistry of their respective actors and actresses. This went all the way to help it truly feel plausible and as though these were real people talking. Like this cutscene at the end of Uncharted 2 with Nate and Elena was just perfect.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared were you that I was gonna die?
4.
4?
Yeah, why?
A 4?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What's a 10?
Clowns?
Clowns over my death?
In this game, all I ever really felt was that these cardboard cutouts were strongly obeying a strict script which hardly allowed for any sort of expression, what with the lifeless deliveries of a bunch of these lines and just how insincere a lot of them felt.
You said it yourself. He wanted to keep you safe.
It just feels lame. So yeah, we then get this extended boring scene of the characters riding this Asian elephant through this detailed environment. Flexing graphics equal to Uncharted 4 isn't a flex, it's a needless chest beat. I mean, yeah, these environments look so good, chugging along at a fat 30 FPS. Never looked better, lads. Just cut to the chase. I want to finish this ASAP.
Need to get my head back in the game and I'll...
Hey! Nadine Ross! Oh my god. What the hell?
Oh look guys, they're such great friends. They smile, laugh at unfunny crap and love talking about the history every picosecond. How nice. We're like halfway through the game and they're already best chums. It took all of Uncharted 1 before Nate started warming up to Elena a bit, but you know.
Nice work, partner.
Nice work.
Put it there.
Jesus. What was that?
That's not funny, like, at all. Yeah, so another thing to point out, outside of just the god-awful dialogue and laughable attempts at conveying emotion, you gotta love the zoom out effects here, lads, so emotional. The game just isn't funny at all.
It's alright. He is like a girl.
Is that right? How about we get these cuffs off and I'll show you how girls hit.
Ha 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 ha, get it? Cause Nadine's so tough and strong.
I am a selfish dickhead. Yeah. It's good to hear you say it.
Oh, totally laugh-inducing stuff here, lads. Oh.
Nobody else has seen for centuries. Apart from Asov.
Apart from us all.
And a few of his men.
And a few of his men.
You ready?
We just totally crushed that moment. You know that, right?
I'm genuinely convinced they hired a bunch of Redditors to write this shite. Who was it? One of you has to explain yourselves. The humor of the original games was so much more consumable, man.
First one set. Don't touch the button.
This one?
You had way more charming individuals who's had so much more stuff to bounce off of and joke about. Like, remember Tenzin, when Nate was forced to work with him despite the big language barrier?
Alright, I'll give you a boost.
What?
Yeah, I still don't speak that. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Stuff like this is what made the older titles' comedy a whole lot more intriguing. It was so charming and fun. Hilariously enough, this was also a way more investing buddy cop story than this whole game somehow. Yo, nice, we found the city, I guess. Probably would have felt more climatic if it wasn't followed up by this annoying joke I played before.
Apart from Asov.
Cause that's mandatory, I guess. It's around this point in the prior games you'd usually come to learn fairly quickly the reason for the population's sudden demise. And that was sometimes asked, the hell happened here and such, and either slightly later on or practically immediately afterwards, you'll put the pieces together yourself to figure out what on earth went down. This is what's usually dubbed the twist. All these games open with the question of what these historical figures were hiding, a not so squeaky clean conscience being reflected in their quotes.
All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds. Wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
This really made these older games feel like great adventures, as you slowly picked apart the plot yourself and discovered the portion of history no one knew of and how it was rewritten. Then, the twist, as you're struck like a bullet by a gross truth regarding the treasure which prevents the characters from attaining it, tying it right back into the opening quote's ugly and almost poetic meanings. In Uncharted 1, you discovered the treasure was cursed and turned the entire population into mutated zombie-like creatures known as Descendants, of which the villain opted to exploit this power. In Uncharted 2, it's found out that the Chintamani Stone is almost a twisted depiction of the Fountain of Youth, immortalizing people and turning them into crazy mutated creatures, hence why Marco Polo lost so many men on his voyage and refused to explain how. Even the games which don't spin supernatural aspects into their story still incorporated clever twists. In Golden Abyss, the treasure was all radioactive, of course, hence why the city was unequivocally killed off and the villain wanted to exploit it for its riches and subsequently power. In Uncharted 4, you learn of this really cool underground shady plan as Avery and 2 murder every other major pirate of Libertalia and make off with their loot, with resistance fighters drowning the pirates' customs as revenge for their exploitations. It felt great and gave a clever twist on history, also helped to make the stories feel far less formulaic, so to speak. In Lost Legacy though, there is no twist. The plot is practically just played out from start to finish exactly as you'd expect, making it way more predictable and frankly way less investing. We'll learn here that the city wasn't killed off due to any sort of supernatural elements or anything, or even a hidden twist of sorts. They were just killed off by invading foreign communities and kingdoms, and fell to corruption or whatever. Nice. If the prior games could be summarized as go to find treasure, abandon mission, defeat villain, win, then this one is basically find treasure, beat villain, win. It's way less exciting and makes the story too safe and consumable, especially in a game that was in dire need of a twist given how basic and by the script everything already feels here. Oh wait, I forgot, there is a twist. As Chloe says right here, the preconceived meaning of Ganesh's tusk was power, but it was actually indicative of the people. You know, Uncharted isn't like a perfect series with no issues in sight. They didn't have the best or even most original character arcs, stories, gameplay, and yes, even writing. But Jesus, they are so much more investing than most things on the market. It's for this reason Lost Legacy's issues just stand out so much more than any of the more minor contrivances in the older titles did. Stupid stuff like the jet ski section in Uncharted 1 were at the very least tolerable, knowing it'd be followed up with some pretty solid and fun traditional shoot-em-up gameplay. Unlike this game, where every corner I turned was just more nonsense. Nothing but a bunch of totally original ideas just pulled from a bunch of other media while also missing most of what made them both fresh at the time and to this day, such as the unlockables. One thing I was admittedly looking forward to were the unlockable costumes and bonuses of this game. Yet another issue in Uncharted 4 was hoping to be remedied in this game with a lackluster outfits. Rather than giving us Nate's iconic costumes from the prior titles, it just let us reuse skins that you wear at some point in the game itself, making the unlockables fairly underwhelming. I mean, yay, I can't wait to get to play as Office Drake. I was told by some people that Lost Legacy actually allows you to wear the skins from the multiplayer, which, you know, is great. I could play the game as a cool as hell Savage Starlight design or in Chloe's OG Uncharted 2 and 3 clothing. Nice. One very important, teensy tiny detail I wasn't told is that you can only wear 2 of Chloe's 14 multiplayer exclusive skins. Epic. So, no, I hardly consider it a step forward from Uncharted 4. Every other bonus feature is practically identical to Uncharted 4's, including the inability of being able to remotely rewatch cutscenes from the menu screen anymore, which, as we've gone on before, is annoying and makes the process of having to watch cutscenes via playing through the entire stage itself feel tedious, and even more so in the case of this game, where I didn't want to play this game for any longer than I had to. At least Uncharted 4 was, you know, good, hence inspiring the player to play the game to watch a cutscene.
Oh. Glad I brought this.
Huh, almost as if it was blind luck?
Don't need luck.
Sure. This chapter also features this giant mega statue thing you have to climb and reposition the limbs of to progress farther into the temple. Where have I heard that before? Oh, also, you have to redirect some light around the big ass temple in order to progress. Where have I also heard that before? Chloe all of a sudden being able to repeat an action Nate did in Uncharted 2 after making more than explicitly clear she was incapable of such a task. Is the lunar narrative dissonance just too much for me to ignore? I know I said before the climbing, shooting, fighting, yada 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 was all likely more for gameplay purposes, but that explanation can only go so far. Why and how all of a sudden is Chloe equally as capable as Nate after it was more than established she wasn't at all? Give us any sort of justification. Did she take lessons? Did she strive for more physically demanding adventures after Uncharted 3? As much as that game implied she'd actually do the exact opposite, something? Can we get even like a reaction of her doing this stuff after not doing anything similar to this before? Nah, you see lad, she was always this way. We're just remembering it differently, I guess. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this new take photos of landmarks, things supplanting the journals. I liked it more seeing Nate draw and write stuff in the books. Felt more explorative and adventurous. Picking up and finding cool as hell authentic notes, drawings, and illustrations and slapping it into your journal just, gave a cool feeling. But, whatever, I'm not gonna lose sleep over this small one. It's fine. Oh yeah, this chapter also introduces Sam. Now, for some context, Chloe actually hired 2 people. Nadine for some absurd reason, and Sam to help lead a Sav astray and basically stall him out for a bit, I guess. And honestly, I don't really know why they chose a reason as vacuous as this. Doesn't really seem to affect the plot in any major way, and honestly makes a Sav kind of seem like a dumbass for falling for Sam's nonsense. Just an excuse of Sam in the game. In this game, Sam has been altered almost completely of any substance from Uncharted 4, which made him even remotely likable. Here, he's just been relegated to Nadine and Chloe's lapdog, following whatever orders barked his way and not contributing to the plot like whatsoever. I mean, yeah, if you recall, in my Uncharted 4 video I did lament a sort of similar argument. Despite having exceptional potential with Amy Hennig's first drafts, he was instead a fairly basic character for this series. Mostly cracking jokes and not contributing too much to a lot of the plot, it felt like Amy had the right idea with him from the start. But at least Sam still had moments to shine. He helped the cast in a ton of ways, mostly thanks to his extensive knowledge of Avery, and there were plenty of moments where he bailed everyone out of tight jams. In fact, Sam literally also led Rafe and Nadine astray in that game, similarly to Asav. This game just loves reusing a bunch of crap now, doesn't it? Instead here, he's just this punching bag essentially, tossed around like this hapless little ragdoll who's awkwardly just tagging along. He has no moments to shine, he doesn't help solve a complex puzzle, he doesn't save the gang at all, he never fights Asav or has a Nadine zoom-in effect of him fighting. Quite the opposite in fact, every time he's within a 5-meter radius of Asav, he's usually getting his ass kicked. Nothing. Instead, he's just further trenching the game with more needless tyke humor. Great. You ever had that little brother who hung out with his big brother and his friends just to maybe get out of the house or something, and he was just mostly a grey blur lurking in the background? Maybe he'll take the fall for his older brother's group, sometimes even get the gang into trouble? Yeah, that's Sam. I wouldn't even be complaining if his jokes were perhaps funny, but as we've gone over before, this game is so far from funny, it's ludicrous.
I will look at this stuff off and I'll show you how girls hits.
The hell is she doing here?
Wait, so not only did you not tell Nadine that Sam was working with you, you also didn't tell Sam that Nadine was working with you?
You said find help, I gotta help.
Why should I like these characters again?
You do remember that she also tried to kill Nathan and I many, many times.
And to be fair, you two tried to do the same to her.
Excuse me? Oh yeah, that reminds me. The music of this game. Lost Legacy was composed by the same person who did Uncharted 4, and you can really tell. The OST isn't that interesting for similar reasons Uncharted 4's overall wasn't very good either. It tries too hard to be contextually sensitive and doesn't really try at all to like uplift you and captivate you in any sort of exciting way, making it less memorable and not very listenable. Playing soft and mellow music over slower, less action-packed sections, using more Hollywoody stings and stangs to contextualize settings and events.
So near, yet so far.
Okay. Nearly there. Okay, that did something. So I can put this down? No, wait for it.
It's not that great and kind of a snooze fest. I will give it minimal credit, however, as the game does use more culturally traditional instruments this time around, something that was overall lacking in Uncharted 4. However, the game doesn't at all use it to the same extent Uncharted 1 to 3 and Golden Abyss did. It's just more so background auxiliary, not necessarily manipulating and going hard on the instrumentation. Uncharted 3, for instance, went so inexplicably hard with its OST. I don't think Lost Legacy's OST, however, is necessarily bad under specific circumstances. The more cautious underground sort of atmosphere the soundtrack gives off feels more at home with a game that relied more on stealth, as if these characters are more underdogs. I mean, to hone this in, just listen to some of Lost Legacy's themes over gameplay of Nate. Then compared to gameplay of Chloe. You see what I mean? Yet another reason this should have just been a stealth title. The one and only tune I actually think was made with enough excitement to warrant mention here was this one. But this is the only tune that's actually exciting and pumping to listen to in this game. All the other ones are just slow, atmospheric, blooming. I could have sworn that the game reused some tunes from Uncharted 4 and maybe it did. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to replay this goddamn game to figure it out. I got a life I want to get back to once this video's done. There's also this small little similarity. Even the soundtrack's copying stuff from the prior games, goodness. So it begs the question, is it as good as Uncharted 4's soundtrack? Absolutely not. I find myself re-listening to a bunch of Uncharted 4's tracks over Lost Legacy's, namely... Lost Legacy really only has one that actually got me hooked out of its 19 tracks, and is it as good as the other game? No, just no. Those games, especially 3, had a very powerful sort of essence with their soundtracks and flow. Their large abundance of culturally traditional instruments played a big factor in placing you into the setting, as like, you know, different countries, different people, and music. It separated them from the common market, which would never really shoot for this and instead just have the music serve as a backdrop for a generic blend environment rather than trying to immerse you into it, making them feel lame and pretty empty. You'd be very surprised just how different a place can feel with the music alone, and the first 3+ Golden Abyss nailed that on the head. I mean, just listen to Science and Magic.
One way to find out.
Another not answer.
Something different.
Gets me every single time, and honestly, it's a shame that this kind of atmosphere was let go. What a waste. Oh yeah, this. Remember how in the prior games Nate was notorious for the fact that everything he touched turned to shite and like every ledge or platform he'd grab onto would collapse? The reason it worked for Nate was because of his luck factor. These moments showed that his luck was as beneficial as it was detrimental to him. The ultimate sort of irony used to make some jokes. In fact, they crafted some pretty funny ones from this. But Chloe doesn't have Nate's luck, so... no? Could they not have thought of something unique for Chloe herself? No, instead they just recycled one of the attributes which made Nate fun and hoped that it'd also apply here. Here's an idea, lads. If you're gonna make a new game about a different set of characters, but reuse all the features which made your old cast memorable, why not just make a new game about the old cast? Here, we then get this very rushed arc for Nadine where Shoreline, the main villain faction from the 4th game, are defeated as quickly as they are introduced and Nadine learns to get over them? Okay. And honestly, I don't know why they tried doing this. You know what the whole point of a character arc is? Changing the character, have them act and behave differently as they embrace newfound meaning and perspective. Here though, nothing has changed at all with this incel. She's still this flawless, unstoppable tank, just slightly nicer now. It just feels like more shy pull out of their asses for the sake of padding this game out with more bollocks. Great. There's also the fact that, like, it's not emotional at all. You want to know what a real character arc looks like? Look no further than Uncharted 3, lads. Throughout that game, it depicts a great tale of hubris and the unideal ramifications which could spark from an overabundance of egotism. Nate in that game is characterized as a lot more carefree and arrogant, ignoring dangerous situations and the consequences his actions can have on his friends. Everyone is constantly calling out what Nate is trying to prove, what with this new boastful mannerism, and are trying to convince him to step down and reevaluate his bias. Even Sully does this.
You got your pride all tangled up in this thing. It's making you reckless. I taught you better than that.
Until the midpoint of the game, where Nate finally acknowledges his wrongsuits and recognizes the consequences which have been caused by his ambition. His emotional reconciliation with and heartfelt apology to Elena, his personal conversation with Sully at the end, and his new acceptance of settling down and living a more safe lifestyle, in sharp juxtaposition to his previous behavior. This also recontextualizes the prior games in an interesting way. It's kinda cool knowing that playing all these games and these exciting adventures is what fueled Nate's overinflated ego in this one. We caused this, so now we fix this. This is called a character arc, as in a real character arc, not this nonsense. And this was that grand, amazing, revolutionary Nadine character arc I was told so much about. There's this mini helicopter sequence here, and honestly, I don't really have much to say about this. Just shoot some guys, climb into the helicopter and do a QTE. It's really not much. What is worth mentioning is that you're intended on playing this more stealthily, which, as we've gone on before, only gives off the feeling of wanting to play a better version of this game that we will very likely never get. Oh, also, Orca's back. I mean, if you thought he died in Uncharted 4 but not, I really don't blame you. I guess since we didn't see his body at all, it implied he escaped. I mean, nor did we see him escaping at all, despite literally exploring the ship ourselves. He, for some reason and somehow, just left without running into us at all, seeing this happen, or, well, even really alluding to it. Okay, whatever. What was Sam doing this whole time, by the way? We couldn't have seen him fight Orca, because, like, you know, he has actual history with him and so far has done next to nothing in this game. That's honestly one thing I kind of wish we could have seen in Uncharted 4. Nate and Sam fighting Orca or not, or hell, Nate and Sully even. So it would have been cool to perhaps see Sam at least fight Orca here, but nah, you see, this is Nadine's totally thought out arc. She has to be the one! And Chloe too, I guess. Unfortunately, what Sam does give us is probably the worst scene in Uncharted history, bar none.
Catch. Gun!
Nice shot.
Thanks.
Pattern's a little wide. You
Get the hell off me.
Yeah. All right.
Do I really even need to elucidate how this isn't funny in the slightest? Or the fact that Sam would never in a trillion billion years even think of doing this? Like, I genuinely wonder why he did this. At no point has it ever been even slightly established he's forgiven Nadine. As a matter of fact, he's practically been her punching bag throughout the whole game.
Wait, I'll just borrow Nadine's hook and...
I have a better idea.
What are you...
Don't move.
Come on, hey.
I said don't move.
Chloe. Can I borrow?
Don't mind me. Sorry.
Yeah. Leave the rope for me, please.
Hell, Sam literally even says this a few minutes later.
I gotta get to her.
Wait. You have to? I mean, she seems pretty capable.
Sam.
All right, I'm just here.
Do you like her or not? This was all just for the sake of having this extremely funny joke ensue. Great. Hell, I don't even know why the game feels that Sam specifically needs to forgive Nadine as if he's in the definite wrong for defending himself from her army. Like, what? This game's writing is so bad, dude. Like, ugh. I can't even tell this is trying to be some sort of like moral dilemma moment, because like, don't forget, these pieces of cardboard are personified as these difficult, deep people who often have to make challenging moral decisions. But like, there's a difference between being morally cluttered and just being retarded. What righteous impasse is there to be had here? Do I save the person who tried to kill me and my younger brother who I just reunited with after being unequivocally separated from for 15 years straight, and so far this person has treated me like garbage physically and verbally? Or save them? That is practically what is at stake here. Is it even sort of similar to Uncharted 2's conundrum, where Nate can kill Lazarevich cold-bloodedly and wipe yet another dirty scum off the earth, but in the process solidify the ideologies of the madman? No, not at all. Oh wait, I forgot, Sam and Nadine laughed with each other here, therefore showing they've grown. Ugh. Then we get this assembly scene of the reject Avengers. Nadine and Chloe are looking at each other like, oh, we're such good friends. It's like, what? What kind of a buddy cop story is this? And Sam looks so excited to be shattered on again by these troglodytes. It's like, what is this? We went from...
I thought this kind of thing only happened in the movies.
...to a chromosome deficient Avengers cast. Uncharted, lads. Uncharted.
What?
Chloe and Nadine, by this point, are practically bonded to the point they're soulmates, and everywhere I look at it, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, so in case you forgot, Chloe in this game is attempting to locate the Tusk of Ganesh as his odd family need to close the book on her father's work and to gain closure. She hires two people willing to both efficiently help her locate its location and to hinder herself's advances, respectively. So you'd think she hired people actually eligible for the job? Well, you're half right. She hires Sam, and this actually makes sense. He's a capable treasure hunter with a track record of discovering lost cities, fending off against armies, and it's Nate's brother. So who else does she hire? Nadine Ross, of course. I mean, after all, she's such a high success rate at treasure hunting, knows a lot about the Hoysala Empire and Indian history, and actually knows about archaeology, right? Right?
Wrong!
Why would Chloe hire someone who knows absolutely nothing about the Hoysala Empire, has never treasure hunted in their life, and also actively went out of her way to not only try to kill Sam, but also your ex-boyfriend in the game legit prior to this? She's almost a textbook definition of useless here. This is a personal adventure for Chloe. Why would she recruit someone who presents themselves as more of a liability? The game tries so hard to cover this crack in the credibility armor. Chloe constantly declares that she really needs Nadine's help or something.
I need your help.
But like, it's never actually really explained at all how she helps, and she never even really actually does anything useful in the game besides just being backup, which, you could have literally hired anyone else for that. Just comes across as emotionally manipulative, like all presentation but no taste in tantalization. This arc feels so flat, as these two don't feel like they were even actually properly paired in a way that makes sense. It just feels like an excuse, and a pathetic one at that. Additionally, we all know of Chloe's rather destructive history of militias and private armies, right? Why the hell would she, someone who has a history of fighting against armies alongside Nathan Drake himself, hire the ex-leader of a private army which was wiped out by Nathan Drake himself and Sam? So what, if Talbot survived being buried under tons of sand, she would have blissfully hired him to help her treasure hunt? Nadine isn't even at all slightly skeptical this may be a trap and she might be trying to finish Nate's job? This is such a poorly thought out decision, not only from Chloe and Nadine's parts, but the writers themselves. Did they forget who Chloe was? Did they even play the games? Did they even touch the games? Do they even know they exist? I can only imagine how an actual well-written interpretation of the story would have panned out. Ah, sweet, sweet solace. Not only is this pairing so poorly set up, but it could have oh so easily been fixed if even the slightest amount of thought and care went into it. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense for Sam to be Chloe's partner? He's the treasure hunter after all and actually knows his history rather well. The hell does Nadine do in this game that we haven't already seen Sam do in Uncharted 4? Furthermore, Nadine and Asav already have history and he literally says he'd be willing to recruit her, so shouldn't Nadine have been the one stalling out Asav instead? Hell, why not make Chloe's partner Sully, so we not only would have got an actual good and fun dynamic featuring two good characters, but it also makes sense. They have history, he's been paired with Nate a lot, and it was implied at the end of Uncharted 4 he would be working with Sam. Instead, strangely enough, Sully's never once mentioned in the whole game despite Sam being present. What, do they once again not see eye to eye? I mean, in the epilogue of Uncharted 4 it shows the two of them with each other, so what was their excuse this time? Plus, having Sully in the game would actually please the fans that have wanted a Victor Sullivan game for a decade at the time of this game's release, not the 0.00001% of the audience who wanted one with Nadine in it. Why not bring back Charlie Cutter? I mean, they worked well together in Uncharted 3, had good chemistry, he actually knew his history, and hell, you could maybe even spur up some romance between the two, as Cutter helps her find closure. Charlie was initially meant to be in Uncharted 4 as well, so maybe bringing him back would help tie it all up, give him one last hurrah, but instead... what a waste. Oh, sorry, I got a bit distracted there. So anyways, the setup falls completely flat and these two interact with the mannerisms of brain-dead, insecure, and needy astrology fans. I'm not even saying, ew, character arc, me no likey. I'm saying this needed way more time in the oven. This is only one game from people that should be so much more personally distant and against one another. They should not have bonded this quickly and especially easily. Nate and Elena didn't really feel any sort of emotional closure with one another until the end of the third game, and after so many adventures it felt quite earned. A bond which took an entire trilogy of development is now awkwardly attempted to be condensed into a single title. In character execution, it's trying way too hard to paint these individuals as this likable cast, which after several adventures already featuring one of these characters doesn't go a long way of making it feel half natural. Nate and Elena weren't such compelling characters in the original games because they were just these solemn individuals. They were intriguing because they were just these fun and charming blokes who felt comfortable hanging around. Their interactions and on and off banter contextualized a sort of charming atmosphere which lingered in all these games. Imagine if they, instead of soft retconning Chloe and introducing these new ideas with her, just focused on her already difficult past and instead expanded on that. Golden Abyss did this with the challenging relationship with Nate and Marissa, and it actually panned out quite well. But nah, you see, that's not how everyone else is doing it, so why should we try anything new? Oh, the final set piece of the game is this bombastic train sequence. Where have I seen that before? If these constant sarcastic remarks weren't telling enough, this game has this irritating tendency of just reusing set pieces from the prior ones. Lost Legacy rehashing ideas from the prior games without any style or substance. I mean, what else is new at this rate? Usually I just leave it there and let it speak for itself, but like, I have heard some people try to argue these set pieces are fine because they're referencing the older games? Question mark? This would only really work if this game stars the older cast, is a love letter to the OGs, and had other aspects interesting enough to help this game feel fresh on its own. But like, none of this applies. We legit already got a love letter in the form of Uncharted 4, aka this game's predecessor, and if you really think this game is in any way, shape or form a love letter to the older ones, then you have not been paying attention in the slightest, my friend. Anywho, as I've scrutinized countless times before, this story constantly feeling the need to recycle everything which worked in the older games and amalgamating it into this mess of a title doesn't go a long way of making it feel cathartic, it goes a long way of making it feel cheap. Could you not for the life of you have thought of anything to make Chloe in this game unique in the long run? Come up with your own unique ideas which actually justify this game's existence in a completely different cast? Because if I really wanted to replay the prior games as set pieces, then well, I would have just replayed the prior games. This title shouldn't be about salvaging old ideas and hoping the nostalgia would rub off. It should be about making these characters and games actually distinct enough to separate it from the prior ones. Uncharted 4, despite being a love letter filled with references and remarks to prior adventures, still felt the need to make its own actually cool set pieces. Because like, you know, that's the whole point of making a new game, have new ideas to back it up, otherwise you turn it into some FIFA bollocks. But nah, you see kids, it's not plagiarism if you're stealing from yourself. Woo. This train set piece really has nothing on the Uncharted 2 one. Downright unfair checkpoint locations and brutal difficulty aside. I mean, like, really? This segment really hit home on a myriad of different aspects. First, it starts off as this beeline dash through the train, mowing down any opponents within your line while driving through gorgeously designed and detailed Nepali environments, until it ramps up in chaos as his helicopter joins the party and tries to blow you sky high, vigorously annihilating train car after train cars that desperately tries to atomize you. Then it segues into this narrowing, almost claustrophobic tunnel system as you have to cautiously read your environment from head to toe to avoid dangerous obstacles while fighting off any soldiers present. Then we return outside, but instead in this absolutely stunning Himalayan environment, the icy blue hues radiating throughout the surroundings. It felt great, as though you treaded a lot of ground and accomplished a lot. Then you're reintroduced to this guy who frantically sends everything he's got at you, from these mad armored boys and this helicopter again. Then you turn the tide and finally defeat the helicopter, closing the gap between you and this dude. Then it all ends in a final hand-to-hand fight as you triumphantly decimate this poor soul and emerge victorious. Or do you? Instead, you end up dangling off the side of a cliff with a bullet sitting comfortably in your gut and are forced to haplessly climb the train, wander the graveyard created by you yourself, then fight off wave after wave after wave of soldiers while a brutal blizzard suppresses the battlefield, establishing a very frantic and airless domain as though you're on your last legs and giving them everything you've got, but you can only go on for so much more time. Then finally ending it all with Nate blindly wandering the mountain being saved by Tenzin. Mwah! Ottimo! In this game, you just shoot some guys, shoot some guys, shoot some guys, shoot guys, but this time with a turret, then drive for a bit, shift the train's trajectory, watch Nathan get wanked off again, drive back to it, and then fight us off round 2. Honestly, this is an absolute joke compared to Uncharted 2. There's like nothing to break up the immersion, no helicopter, no armored military truck, no plane, you know, something that adds to the variety of gameplay at all. Why couldn't we have gone like some original set pieces? Maybe we have to fight a tiger or something. I mean, imagine how sick that would be. We couldn't have maybe gone a sick as hell flood escape set piece, maybe like some monsoon stuff, as the open world area is swallowed by some big flood or something and you have to navigate a destroyed version of an area you already familiarized yourself with. Maybe a new enemy faction who specializes in water mobility more, like divers and such. I mean, imagine how killer that would be. But nah, it worked in the prior game, so it'll definitely work here as the game's unofficial slogan, I swear to God. I guess the environments are slightly nice to look at, but would I rather the Himalayas or some generic jungle? Yeah. The set pieces resolved with the second Assaf fight. I liked the first one, so surely the second one wouldn't fumble the bag, right? Round 2 is well choreographed, visually just a lot of fun to look at, and overall it's nice to engage in. It adds enough of a skill ceiling and variety to gameplay to allow you to just have fun and take the fight at your own pace, even if my interpretation of fun is just dying over and over again and blissfully watching Nadine get her ass kicked, while also maybe slightly flattering my ego by proving even more of my points in this video correct, like how Assaf uses identical fighting moves from Nate to dog on Nadine. Ah, sweet, sweet justice. I'm not a fan at all though of the way you actually land hits on Assaf. You can only land successful hits on him by doggishly coward punching him in the back of his head out of his line of sight. Where have I seen that before? Then he'll just stand there as though he's wimping and allow himself to get decked. It's especially jarring given how ineffective all of Chloe's punches look at him and as though he could just casually brush them off, completely rendering him as a non-threat and butchering all of his menacing presence from before. It doesn't feel right or triumphant in any way knowing the only way you can actually hurt and beat the big bad guys by doggishly fighting him from behind and relying on a bunch of cheap shots to win. If you told me he'd just stand still like a little baby boy after I witnessed this, I'd probably actually believe you. I mean, it's Lost Legacy, but still! In Uncharted 4, for instance, Nate managed to reciprocate with melee moves after successfully stunning Rafe and non-repeatedly parrying him. Felt good, felt as though you were actually wearing Rafe down with superior skill. Plus, Rafe actually, looked like he was struggling to recover after being stunned, and each attack Nate landed on him appeared to genuinely hurt him and send him back. Why couldn't they have just done that? Where Chloe constantly gains the upper hand by exploiting weaknesses in Assaf's technique and successfully just outskilling him, as was implied in the first fight? Have her attack from behind, but not doggishly. It's honestly a bit underwhelming. There's also the fact that there's little to no stakes here or any other conditions which heighten the intensity of the fight. All the other prior games put a lot more on the line. In the first game, if you lost, then Elena dies, Navarre sells El Dorado and murders the world. In the third game, you fight on this collapsing platform as the entirety of Ubar sinks in the background before you. If you die, Sully dies and half the world. In the fourth game, you're fighting in this pirate ship burning apart by the second, as the entire battlefield is overwhelmed with this orange tint to enhance the fire. Made it feel ominous and intense. The second game, oh boy, the second game. Fighting in the literal heart of this ancient city as you're forced to run away from Lazarevich and gradually deplete his health with portions of resin scattered across the environment. As he gradually grows more frustrated with you, the more damage he takes. Each and every single explosion from the resin destroys the root of the tree and essentially the city. Until the end of the fight where you finally destroy him and are forced to make a dash to the city's entrance as you witness the destruction you caused. You blew up an entire city fighting this guy. It's absolutely insane. Some might argue it's doggish, but well, when you're fighting a near invulnerable super soldier, whatever works, works. Even Golden Abyss took place in a collapsing cave system, slowly tearing apart each second you spent fighting. Here though, it's just a looped train track. You veer over a broken bridge, but it's not that eventful knowing you can just grapple hook your way to safety, which is exactly what you do in yet another moment ripped from the prior games. Now I know they had a bomb in it, but it was already more than dealt with 10 minutes beforehand anyway, so no. They could have done something more interesting with this. Instead of being on the roofs of the train cars, why not make it that they're inside of them and have to make risky leaps from inside to inside, similar to what Mission Impossible did. But no. So the characters are celebrating their victories. Woohoo, we beat the big evil bad guy by dog-shotting him and our emotional support punching bag is still with us. Yay. If this were anything like the prior two games, emotional, they'd be reminiscing on how dangerous and perhaps not worth the adventure was in the long run. But then we get this line.
So, what's next? For Nadine Ross. If anything, I was thinking I might give this treasure hunting racket another go. Know of any selfish dickheads who might be in need of a partner? Not you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I only work with professionals.
Right.
Really? One question I have for everyone that's seen this ending is, what emotional weight do these endings even hold anymore now? Because according to Lost Legacy, ha 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 ha, treasure hunting and fighting armies ain't dangerous, kids. Nate was just a big baby who cowered his way out of the industry. The whole reason Nate abandoned that life to begin with was due to the unideal ramifications of illegal tomb raiding. Treasure hunting and pilfering is fun, but does not excuse one from responsibility. The friends and family he was dealt with were ultimately and unironically more timeless and valuable than any degree a pint of treasure could possibly satiate for him. Killing armies, blowing shit up while also being blown up, cracking skulls and scrapping at the skin of your teeth provides the great adrenaline rush which Nate so desperately craves, but in the end still left him with the same feeling.
Thought that after we found Avery's treasure, I'd be satisfied. Instead, I've kind of left with this strange feeling of
emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, as thrilling as the next adventure might be, in the end, you're always left with that same feeling. And sometimes you just gotta choose what you're going to keep and what you're gonna let go.
The characters growing up and recognizing they were no longer the carefree outsider kids trying to prove themselves as worthy of success and admiration, that living a life ignoring responsibility only exacerbates your accountabilities, and the dirty world of treasure hunting are all what paved the way for Nate to change his mind. I mean, why the hell would he want to keep going anyway? He killed hundreds each adventure, yet never even actually got the treasure. The dangers weren't worth it. His ambition could never be satisfied. Henceforth, he settled down and chose a life still of treasure hunting, but on a more legal basis. This was such an interesting decision and variety of depth to lay these characters with. At this point, these sort of character adventure happy-go-lucky treasure hunting stories were more so played basic by featuring characters which never really struck on core emotional levels quite like this. Go in to get the treasure and leave with the said treasure is a mostly solid way to oversimplify these stories, with maybe a few here and there panning out unsuccessful. Sometimes depth is attempted, but not quite on the level as this. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, as I do still love these stories quite a lot and they're some of my favourite films to watch of all time. But I'm just saying, Uncharted tackling a more humanized story and deeper subject matter is probably why everyone was playing and falling in love with these characters in a way very few gaming franchises had managed. Which is also one of the reasons Uncharted ballsily deciding to end made it stand out even more compared to the Indiana Joneses, albeit 3 is my personal ending, the Tomb Raiders, etc. There is a bit of contention regarding Uncharted ending fairly quickly compared to most franchises, and maybe bring it back to pick apart more depth out of the main characters. But according to Lost Legacy, nah kids, illegal treasure hunting is fun. Screw depth and screw those old games where trying something new and interesting. We're all lovable cardboard cutouts. We all got away with the treasure. We're all thrill-seeking dumbasses. Honestly, this is such an FU to the old fans. Now it's a big expansive cinematic universe of other treasure hunters, completely diluting the interest of these individual ones and their arcs. Who the hell would want to play a sequel with these idiots? It's literally just going to be find the treasure, we found the treasure, leave with treasure, done. There's like no Elena of this group, a sort of angel in the shoulder voice of reason to keep the overarching characters' egos and ambition in check. No Sully, the wisecracking, horny, silver-tongued, cigar-smoking, scoundrel-driven father figure / mentor, nothing. It's just 3 posers who all have the same interests and ambitions. Who the hell wants a buddy cop adventure where all the lead characters are the same people? A complete middle finger to the original game's spot-on character writing. Remember when Sly 4 came out and everyone criticized how the game massacred essentially all the emotional depth of the original trilogy and the characters were way too one-note to be anywhere near as interesting as their initial depictions? Or when the Ratchet & Clank reboot did the exact same thing and every old fan took to the internet to brutally break apart how this game slaughtered all the emotional deepness of the OG games? Why isn't it alright when these stories do that, but when Uncharted does it, it goes straight over what feels like everyone's heads? Am I the only one that paid attention to these other stories? Oh yeah, and that's where the game ends, with the characters celebrating their shot adventure having learned absolutely nothing. Spectacular. God damn, what is with this music? Can I not just enjoy my victory with something a little more mellow, please?
Yeah, guns close doors to the system.
Also, I feel like this goes without saying, but when I think of Uncharted, the last thing I think of is hip-hop. And to further home in just how much this game is trying to smear the MCU formula all over Uncharted, we even get a post-credit scene of the characters once again doggishly egging on Sam. Epic. So anyways, now for the important part, how screwed is the series? Well, when looking at this question, you may think the series isn't quite down for the count yet. I mean, it's only one bad game out of an ensemble of others which span anywhere from good to amazing. But when you look at the consensus of the Uncharted movie, you get a glimpse of how much of a not success this dull and soulless attempt to emulate the modern MCU formula onto Uncharted failed at standing up for itself within the medium. And this is where the crux of the issue really lies. To understand this, I think it's first important to lay out just why Uncharted worked so well. Uncharted was never Marvel and never tried to be. These games all served as their own passionate, self-contained stories which were ultimately just trying to have fun. These titles struck an amazing blend between having fun and knowing when to eventually get serious and take the characters down more personal routes, which is a trend that's been sorely lacking within this modern industry. Everything has to be so conventional and by the book to the point fun and originality are sacrificed. It's why this game feels like a recycling bin of past Uncharted ideas, hoping that their magic would just rub off on us again. It's why in this game we don't get any semblance of distinctiveness and none of the characters feel recognized. Instead, it feels like a half-baked and misguided interpretation of Uncharted from people that failed to recognize the simplicity of what made these games so nice. Slow-paced, happy melodrama being forcibly crowbarred into every second of the game did not accomplish such things. Adhering to way too many modern story traps and wishing we'd give the game a collective pat on the back only comes across as manipulative and unnatural, especially when your series was renowned for not entirely conforming to modern tropes. Uncharted's more unconventionally whimsical take on the treasure hunting genre, its unique cast of characters and established emotional arcs built up throughout the courses of several games is what made it so enthralling and different. Many other treasure hunting stories hadn't attempted to resonate on a more emotional level while also engagingly humanizing their cast beyond simple shooting icons. Whereas here we get this half-assed attempt to sacrifice appeal in order to be like everyone else. The fact that no one is shedding any light on these obvious issues and in fact calling this game one of the best in the series shows me just how much the standards of not only this franchise have fallen, but writing in general. I mean, what the hell does this game do so interesting aside from just rehashing a bunch of ideas executed with way more finesse before? Yes, there is fun to be had just mindlessly climbing and shooting, but once you add on the lackluster of literally everything else, it's not something I can get into. It's something else. These games capitalize on the various dips and peaks a video game can offer to carefully develop and carry out their arcs and stories, to the safe and easy bland jug of a game which has no real edge to it. No spark, and when you sacrifice appeal for the sake of perfunctory adversity, then that's how you end up here. And in terms of any issues with this game stemming from the fact it was supposed to be a DLC, well, unfortunately, it's a game. A game that's compared to a line of marginally superior other games, no less. A game that will forever serve as a stain of this solid stream of titles and has even influenced future products of this universe. Obviously, I'm not enthralled for any attempt of an Uncharted 5 reboot or second movie if this MCU ghost will proceed to haunt these products as well, as this isn't and wasn't Uncharted. It's something that doesn't know Uncharted and takes a monstrous shot on what once was great and turns it into a whole lot of nothing. That's why, as I said, this game is so disappointing to me. If you've sat through this entire video, then I'm sure you come to at least one realization. I sure do love this beautiful series. When I think of Uncharted, I think of these amazing places I got to explore, people I got to meet, and cultures I learned about. These games served as my methods for travel when I really couldn't, and I always wanted to share that with everyone. I always wanted to spread to everyone why I found these games so exhilarating and where my unbridled passion for the series grew from. The fact these products exist, however, well, I can't help but to feel sick, as if what I loved has since been turned redundant. People will look at this new approach for the series and assume it to be a step in the right direction, as if it's always been this way, even though it wasn't. But who knows, to a lot of people this may also be the Uncharted they grow up with and learn to love, and well, don't let me get in your way. You can love something I hate and hate something I love, but ultimately I gotta stand with what I find so much more commendable, and I will forever try to spread my love and quality of these games to everyone.